Hello students, welcome to our online platform. Myself Engineer PP sir, your physics mentor. So students, today we are going to start with our new topic which is semiconductor electronics. So in semiconductor electronics we are going to start with basic introduction of solids, then energy bands and then semiconductors. So let us start with solids. What are solids? So if we talk about solid, then we can say that these are matters which have a definite shape. Matters having a definite shape and a definite volume are known as solids. The characteristic properties of solid depends upon the nature of forces acting between their constituent particles. It means if we talk about solids, then it depends then what type of forces are there between their constituent particles like ions, atoms or molecules. So solids are generally classified into two types: crystalline solids and amorphous or glassy solids. So if we talk about these solids, then there is simple difference that crystalline solids have some definite shape, or you can say definite external geometrical form, or if we talk about amorphous or glassy solids, then they have indefinite, means no definite shape. Like if we talk about crystalline solids, then ions, atoms or molecules of these solids are arranged in a definite fashion in all its three dimensions. It means they are arranged in a definite 3D shape. While if we talk about amorphous or glassy solids, then they are not arranged in a definite manner. So this is the basic difference in crystalline solids and amorphous solids. Then next, like quartz, calcite, mica, diamond, these are crystalline solids. Like rubber, plastic, cement, paraffin, wax are known as amorphous or glassy solids. Then they have well defined faces. Crystalline solids have well defined faces while amorphous solids do not possess definite faces. They are ordered at short range as well as at long range. Crystalline solids are arranged at short range as well as at long range, but amorphous solids may be short range order, but there is no long range order. They are anisotropic. Anisotropic means physical properties like elastic moduli, thermal conductivity, electrical conductivity, refractive index have different values in different directions. So they are crystalline solids are anisotropic. It means they have different physical properties in different directions. And amorphous solids are isotropic, that is physical properties are similar in all the directions. Next, they have sharp melting point. So if we talk about crystalline solids, then crystalline solids have sharp melting point, while amorphous solids have do not have sharp melting point. Then we can say bond strengths are identical through the solids. So bond strength in case of crystalline solids is identical, while in case of amorphous solids bond strengths vary. These are considered as true solids. So if we talk about true solid, then true solid is simply we can say crystalline solid, while these amorphous solids are known as supercooled, or you can say pseudo solids. An important property of crystalline solids is their symmetry. It means crystalline solids have definite shape, that's why they have a particular symmetry, while amorphous solids do not have any symmetry. So these are some basic difference between crystalline solids and amorphous solids. Now let us talk about energy bands. What are energy bands and how solids are classified into different sections, different parts based on energy band. So in isolated atom, the valence electrons can exist only in one of the allowed orbits, each of a sharply defined energy called energy levels. It means whenever we talk about isolated atoms, then the valence electrons exist in only one of the allowed orbits, and that is known as, that energy is known as energy level. But when two atoms are brought nearer to each other, there are alterations in energy levels and they spread in the form of bands. So if we talk about formation or closeness of different atoms, then these different atoms when come together, then due to their different energy levels, they spread out and they form an energy band. Now these energy bands are there are three energy bands: valence band, conduction band and forbidden energy gap. Let us talk about them one by one. First one is valence band. So the energy band formed by a series of energy levels containing valence electrons. So in valence band there are different electrons of valence shell, or you can say they are containing valence electrons in valence band. At 0 Kelvin, the electrons fills the energy levels in valence band starting from lowest one. So they start filling the valence band starting from the lowest one. Then next, this band is always fulfilled by electrons. So valence band is completely filled by electrons. This is the band of maximum energy. So this band contains maximum energy. Electrons are not capable of gaining energy from external electric field. So valence electrons are situated in bottom of that energy band. That's why we do not possess energy from external electric field. No flow of electron due to such, no flow of current due to such electrons. So valence electrons are not responsible for current flow. The highest energy level which can be occupied by an electron in valence band at 0 Kelvin is called Fermi level. So this is the highest level that can be occupied by an electron. So this is all about valence band. Now next band is conduction band. So conduction band, it is the topmost energy band. The higher energy level band is called the conduction band. It is also called as empty band of minimum energy. So energy of this band is minimum and it's completely empty, or we can say it is partially filled. This band is partially filled by the electrons. So it is partially filled. In this band, the electrons can gain energy from external electric field. So we can say that this conduction band is responsible for conduction property, or we can say for flow of current. Hence, if external field is applied, then in this band electrons gain energy from that external field, and the electrons in the conduction band are called free electrons, and they are able to move where within volume of the solid. And as I told you earlier, that current flows due to such electrons. So current flows due to conduction electrons, or due to electrons present in conduction band. Third one is forbidden energy gap. Forbidden energy gap. So it is the energy separation between valence band and conduction band. So from here we can see that this is the lowest band is valence band and the topmost band is conduction band, and separation between them represents forbidden energy gap. It means it represents the minimum amount of energy required by any valence electron to transit into conduction band. So this gap is known as forbidden energy gap. No free electron present in forbidden energy gap. So there is no presence of electron in this free energy gap. Width of forbidden energy gap upon the nature of substance. So if we talk about width of this forbidden energy gap, then this depends on nature of substance. As temperature increases, forbidden energy gap decreases very slightly. So forbidden energy gap, or we can say that if T increases, then del Eg slightly decreases. They are reciprocal. On the basis of energy band, we classify solids into three parts. These three type of solids are conductors, insulators and semiconductors. So we classify them into three parts based on energy band. So if we talk about their electrical conductivity, then conductors have most electrical conductivity. It is around 10 to the power 5, 10 to the power 2 to 10 to the power 8 ohm per meter. Similarly, if we talk about insulators, then it has least, or you can say lowest conductivity, which is 10 to the power minus 8, and semiconductors have a conductivity less than conductors and greater than insulators. So it is 10 to the power minus 5 ohm per meter to 10 to the power 0. Then resistivity. So resistivity is simply reciprocal to conductivity. So we can reverse their values. Then third one is band structure. So if we talk about band structure, then as we can see from here that in case of conductors, conduction band and valence band are almost overlapped, or you can say that del Eg is almost equal to 0. So here conductors can be classified again into two parts based on energy band. One type of conductors where forbidden energy gap is 0, like sodium, where valence band is partially filled. It means in valence shell there is only one electron. And another condition is of overlapping. So in overlapped condition, it is completely filled, like magnesium. So valence band is completely filled here. Now see, in case of insulators, so if you talk about insulators, then forbidden energy gap is maximum. So here in case of insulators, forbidden energy gap is almost greater than 3 electron volt. If we talk about diamond, then for diamond, this forbidden energy gap is about 7 electron volt. For diamond, forbidden energy gap is almost 7 electron volt. And in case of semiconductors, this forbidden energy gap is less. It means it is almost equal to 1 electron volt. It is almost equal to 1 electron volt. If we talk about for silicon and germanium, then for silicon, del Eg is almost 1.1 electron volt, and for germanium, del Eg is almost 0.7 electron volt. So these are solids based on energy band. Now energy gap, so I have explained it in earlier one. Almost 0 or very small in case of conductors, very large in case of insulators, and for diamond it is almost 6 electron volt. So in some sheets it is given as 6, in some sheet it is given as 7, so we can say around 6 to 7 electron volt for diamond. For germanium it is 0.7, and for silicon it is 1.1 electron volt. So we have seen it. If we talk about current carriers, then in case of conductors, current is carried only due to free electrons. So free electrons are responsible for current, while in case of insulators there are no free charge carriers. In case of semiconductors, electrons as well as holes are there for current carrying. Condition of valence band and conduction band at ordinary temperature. So at ordinary temperature, if we talk about, then valence band and conduction band are completely filled, or conduction band is somewhat empty, or we can say conduction band is partially filled for conductors. While if we talk about for insulators, then valence band is completely filled and conduction band is completely vacant. While in case of semiconductors, valence band is somewhat empty and conduction band is somewhat filled. Temperature resistance coefficient. So we have seen earlier in earlier property that in case of conductors, conductivity is maximum, and if temperature is increased, then its conductivity decreases, or we can say resistivity increases. So alpha is positive, temperature resistance coefficient is positive for conductors, while for insulators and semiconductors, if temperature is increased, then their conductivity increases. It means resistivity decreases. Hence, alpha is almost zero, or you can say negative. In both the cases, you can say negative, almost equal to zero, or alpha is negative in case of insulator as well as for semiconductor. So, effect of temperature on conductivity. So, as I explained, in conductors it will decrease, and in semiconductors and insulators it will increase. Effect of temperature on resistance. So, if conductivity decreases, then resistance increases in case of semiconductor, in case of conductor, and in case of semiconductor and insulator it will decrease. Now let us see examples. So, all the metals, these are all metals. So, all the metals are known as conductors, and wood, plastic, mica, diamond, glass, etc. are insulators, while silicon, germanium, gallium, arsenide, these all are known as semiconductors. If we talk about electron density, then maximum electron density is in case of conductors. It means 10 to the power 29 free electrons are there in 1 meter cube volume. In insulators, there is no electron density, and if we talk about in semiconductors, then we can say that it is almost 10 to the power 16 to 10 to the power 19 number of electrons or holes in per meter cube volume. Let us talk about holes in semiconductors. So simply we can see holes are nothing but positive charges which is caused due to absence of free electron. So here we can see that at absolute zero temperature, conduction band of semiconductor is completely empty, because in this case at absolute zero temperature semiconductor behaves as insulator. So its conduction band is completely empty and it behaves as insulator. When temperature increases, then valence electrons acquires thermal energy and jumps into conduction band. So in this situation, they leave behind the deficiency of electrons in the valence band. This deficiency of electron is simply known as hole or quarter. So a hole is considered a seat of positive charge having magnitude of charge equal to that of an electron. So as I told you earlier that hole is nothing but a positive charge which is caused due to deficiency of electron, and its charge is equal in magnitude with charge of electron. So hole acts as virtual charge although there is no physical charge on it. Effective mass of hole is more than electron, as it is positively charged, so its mass will be greater than electron. Mobility of hole is less than electron. Yes, again it is an important point. Mobility is greater for electrons if we compare it with the mobility of holes. So mu E is greater than mu H. Mobility of electron greater than mobility of holes. So this is all about energy band and classification of solids based on energy band. Now let us talk about, we are going to discuss in this lecture completely about semiconductor. So let us talk about semiconductor. First one, intrinsic semiconductor. Intrinsic semiconductor. So what is an intrinsic semiconductor? So we can say intrinsic semiconductor is simply a pure semiconductor. A pure semiconductor found in nature is intrinsic semiconductor. It has thermally generated current carriers or charge carriers. Thermally generated charge carriers are there in intrinsic semiconductor. Generally, if we talk about semiconductors, then 14th group elements of periodic table are semiconductors, and these 14th group elements have a valency of 4. There are 4 valence electrons. 4 valence electrons are there in semiconductors. Their valency is 4. So they have 4 electrons in the outermost orbit. It means they have 4 valence electrons. Free electrons and holes both are charge carriers in case of intrinsic semiconductors, and if we talk about their density, then in intrinsic semiconductor number of electrons are almost equal to number of holes. both are equal in density. Drift velocity of electrons is greater than drift velocity of holes. For them, Fermi energy lies at the center of conduction band and valence band. In case of, if we talk about intrinsic semiconductors, then their Fermi level or their energy level lies almost at the mid of conduction band and valence band. In pure semiconductor, impurity must be less than 1 in 10 to the power 8 parts of semiconductor. It means impurity level in intrinsic semiconductor is less than 100 ppm, less than 100 ppm, parts per million. In intrinsic semiconductors, we can see that Ne or NH, that is Ni is intrinsic charge carrier concentration. It is A T to the power 3 by 2 e to the power minus del Eg upon 2 kT, where Ne0 is electron density in conduction band, NHO is hole density in conduction band, and Ni is density of intrinsic charge carriers. Because of less number of charge carriers at room temperature, intrinsic semiconductor have low conductivity, so they have no practical use. It means intrinsic semiconductors cannot be used in electrical or electronic circuits as their conductivity is low. Net current and conduction. So if we talk about net current and conduction in semiconductors, then we have clearly discussed that if we talk about conductors, then there are free electrons which are responsible for conduction, while in case of semiconductors, free electrons and holes both are responsible for conduction. So here we can say that total current flow is due to free electrons plus current due to holes. So if we talk about current in terms of drift velocities, then we can say that it is I is equal to EA. A is area, E is charge of electron, NeVe plus NhVh. We know the relation I is equal to NeAVd. So here N number of electrons, E charge of electron, A area of cross section, and V drift velocity. So this is a general relation for conductor, but in case of semiconductor, we know that this total current is due to electron plus holes. So if we talk about current due to electron, then we can say NeAVe, and for hole we can say NeAVh in case of intrinsic semiconductor. Hence conductivity of semiconductor. So if we talk about conductivity, then it is sigma is equal to E into Ne mu E plus Nh mu H. So here mu H is mobility of holes and mu E is mobility of free electrons. Then similarly, mu E is equal to Ve upon E, mobility of electron, and mu H is equal to Vh upon E, mobility of holes. So in this situation, we can clearly see that mobility of electrons and holes is given in terms of drift velocity and applied electric field. At room temperature, conductivity of germanium is greater than conductivity of silicon. And we have seen this relation, mobility of electrons is greater than mobility of holes because drift velocity of electrons is greater than drift velocity of holes. Conductivity of semiconductor increases with temperature because number density of charge carriers increases. In a doped semiconductor, the number density of electrons and holes is not equal. So if we talk about doped semiconductors, which are going to be discussed later on, then their densities are not equal. It depends on doping. But it can be established that NeNH is equal to Ni square. So here we can say that multiplication of densities of electrons and holes is equal to square of density of intrinsic charge carriers. Now let us talk about extrinsic semiconductor. So what is extrinsic semiconductor? As we have discussed earlier here in this lecture, that intrinsic semiconductors have low conductivity. They have low conductivity, so we cannot use them for any practical circuit. It means if we want to use those semiconductors, then we have to increase their conductivity. So conductivity is increased of any intrinsic semiconductor by adding some impurities. So if impurities are added into intrinsic semiconductor, then we acquire an extrinsic semiconductor. It is also known as impure semiconductor, or we can say doped semiconductor. Impure or doped semiconductor. The process of adding impurity is called as doping. So impurities can be added by process doping. Now see how these impurities are selected. So first thing which you have to keep in mind, that impurities are added in the semiconductors at atomic level. It means that size of that impurity which can be added into an intrinsic semiconductor should be almost equal in size. It should be almost equal in size. So these impurities are pentavalent and trivalent impurities. It means, as we have discussed, that semiconductors are 14th group elements of periodic table. 14th group elements of periodic table. So we choose impurities of either 13th group or 15th group of periodic table as impurities, as they are almost equal in size with semiconductors. So pentavalent impurities are impurities of 15th group. Trivalent impurities are 13th group impurities. So in 15th group and 13th group impurities, what is the main concept? 15th group impurities have, or 15th group elements have valency as 5. They have valency as 5. Why? While 13th group elements has 3 valency. It means in trivalent impurities there are 3 valence electrons, while in case of pentavalent impurities there are 5 valence electrons. So 15th group elements are nitrogen, phosphorus, arsenic, antimony, bismuth. These are 15th group elements, and if we talk about 13th group elements, then these are boron, aluminium, gallium, indium and thallium. These are 13th group elements. So here we can see that in 15th group elements there are 5 valence electrons. So one electron remains always in excess. Hence in this case we can say that these are donor impurities, and in 13th group impurities there are only 3 valence electrons. Hence one electron is always deficient. It means they are called as acceptor impurities. They have a tendency to accept an electron. The number of atoms of impurity element is about 1 in 10 to the power 8 atoms. So we can say that impurities are added in such a way that they are in order of 1 ppm. It means 1 parts per million. In other words, we can say that almost one atom of impurity is added into 10 to the power 6 atoms of intrinsic semiconductor. In these, Fermi level shifts either towards valence band or either towards conduction band based on nature of conductivity. Their conductivity is high and they are practically used. So now conductivity has been increased by adding impurities, so they can be used for any practical circuit. Now classification of extrinsic semiconductor. So extrinsic semiconductors are classified into 2 parts based on impurity mixed or impurity added. So let us talk about them. If we talk about pentavalent impurity, so if intrinsic semiconductor is mixed with pentavalent impurity, then as we have seen that one electron is always in excess. So excess electron means negative charge, so we can say n-type semiconductor. Similarly, if trivalent impurity is added in intrinsic semiconductor, then here is deficiency of one electron. It means deficiency of electron means positive charge. So it is called as p-type semiconductor. This is general concept. So let us say, so this is the simple structure of, let us say we are considering germanium semiconductor. So if any 13th group element replaces any germanium atom, then they have 5 valence electrons. It means in silicon we know that in silicon or germanium or any semiconductor makes covalent bonds. They make covalent bonds. So every silicon or germanium atom is combined by covalent bonds with 4 other silicon or germanium atoms. So if any pentavalent impurity replaces any germanium atom, then it takes 5 electrons with it. 4 electrons are used in 4 covalent bonds and 1 electron is in excess. So this excess electron remains in the crystal lattice. Hence, we can say that in case of n-type semiconductors, major charge carriers are free electrons, while minor charge carriers are holes. Minor charge carriers are holes in case of n-type. Similarly, if we talk about p-type semiconductor, then let us say any trivalent impurity replaces any germanium or silicon atom, then they have 3 valence electron with them. It means these 3 electrons will be used in making 3 covalent bonds, while fourth one is incomplete. Fourth covalent bond is incomplete, vacant. It means a vacancy is created. A vacancy is created and this vacancy is simply known as hole. So in this case, major charge carriers are holes, while minor charge carriers are free electrons. Minor charge carriers are free electrons, because every time whenever any trivalent impurity will replace any silicon or germanium atom, then it will cause a vacancy or a hole or a quarter, while whenever any silicon or germanium atom is replaced by any pentavalent impurity, then there will be excess of electron every time. It means major charge carriers are free electrons in case of n-type, and in case of p-type they are holes. So we have seen majority charge carriers electron, minority holes. If we talk about concentration of charge carriers, then in n-type we clearly know that density of electrons is much greater than density of holes, while in case of p-type density of holes is much greater than density of electrons. If we talk about conductivity, then conductivity of n-type semiconductors is almost equal to conductivity of free electrons, while if we talk about conductivity of p-type, then their conductivity is almost equal to conductivity of holes. So n-type semiconductor is electrically neutral. It means they are not negatively charged. Similarly, p-type semiconductors is also electrically neutral. Impurity is called donor impurity because one impurity atom generates one electron. So here we can see that every time we require here 4 electrons to make 4 covalent bonds, but in pentavalent impurities there are 5 electrons. It means they have one excess electron every time. It means they have a capacity of donating 1 electron. That's why they are known as donor impurities. While in case of trivalent impurities, they have only 3 valence electrons. It means they require 4 electrons to make 4 covalent bonds, but there is a deficiency of 1 electron. So they first complete that deficiency by acquiring an electron from valence band. It means they have a tendency to bag an electron. That's why they are known as acceptor impurities. So here we can see that if we talk about energy level of donor impurities, then donor impurities will donate these electrons to conduction band. It means donor energy level will lie just below the conduction band, while acceptor impurities have a tendency to accept any impurity or bag an impurity, so it will be just above the valence band, just above the valence band, like this. Because donor impurities already have excess electrons with them, so they will lie just below the conduction band, while acceptor impurities have vacancies. It means first of all they will acquire or they will bag electrons from valence band, and then they will give an electron to conduction band. So this is the classification of simple p type and n type semiconductors. So that's it for today's lecture. So students, today we have discussed brief introduction of energy bands and their classifications, and we have seen different type of semiconductors. In next lecture we are going to talk about formation of PN junction and and different type of diodes. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching the video. We will meet in next video with our continued topic. Thank you.